Let's go. Let's freaking go. Inflation has fallen to 4 freaking percent. And oh my goodness, some of the stocks that we all own, Palantir, are going a little bit to the moon. You remember that Frank Sinatra song? Fly me to the moon. Let me play beyond the stars. That's basically what's happening to Palantir right now. Palantir, $16.22 pre-market. Now, I don't know if it holds up, okay? I don't know if it holds up. But what I do know is that the market likes it. We got NVIDIA at $402 pre-market. You know when NVIDIA's up, Palantir's up. NVIDIA's like a little big brother. When NVIDIA goes up, we go up. You got freaking Sofi, $9.58. Ladies and gentlemen, if the rug is not being pulled, this, as I bang on the table, might just be a bull market. Might just be. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. We've got a lot to discuss today. Ricardo, Jose, Quarantine, Quartet, Van, Reza, Doug, Douglas, Adam, IC, George, John, Johnny, good morning. Van, Eeyore was right. Felicia, Flower, Child, Sonam. You got to wake up sometimes and smell the roses just a little bit on a good day. Doug, Pete, Rich, Ahad, Duke, Trillions, Mike B, Fadi, AG, Fly Me to the Moon. We've got a lot to talk about today. Mr. Seymour Duck, hello. John Stevens, Sasky Rose. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So if you haven't heard of the news so far, CPI has come in from 4.9% down to 4.0%. It is down 900 basis points as of this morning. This is a big deal for markets. Now, core PCE did not come in as well as we expected. I'm going to share a chart right now. But headline, sort of top line CPI inflation came down pretty nicely. So this is the main chart that you need to care about. Okay, so this is where we had June 2022. Remember, we were at like 9.1% inflation, obviously pretty bad. That is down year over year to 4% in May 2023. This is the lowest inflation has been in the past 2 years. It is the lowest inflation has been in the past 2 years, which is incredibly important. Now, core PCE, which is all items minus food and energy, because food and energy tend to bring down the overall inflation a bit more, is kind of flat from last month. I mean, we saw it from February to March, it increased. From March to April, it went down. April to May, it went down, just not as down as much as obviously the slope of the line from April to May in the blue is much more intense, right? It's going down a lot more heavier than we saw in the red. Now, is this a bad thing? Not necessarily, because overall it's going down. If the red was going up, if core PCE was going up, then yeah, it wouldn't be the best. But if it's flat as top line goes down, that means it's starting to come down. We're at 4% in May. In June CPI that we're going to get in July, we're going to get to like 3.7, 3.6. And if that's the case, core PCE is inevitably going to come down, which means all of this stuff is going to come down. And it's going to be really exciting as it comes down. And the market is obviously very excited for this. Palantir is at $16.22. Now, Palantir was at $16.13 pre-market before we got the CPI numbers, which is why it has sustained its rally and built on that rally up 3% at $16.23. Yesterday, Bank of America upgraded Palantir to an $18 price target. We are $2 away from that price target. The market cap currently at $33 billion. I think it'll be about $35 billion as we open in the market open. So Palantir had a nice run yesterday from that price upgrade, and it's getting a further price run up because of the macro. NVIDIA, again, at $400. Enphase up just a little bit. Sofi at $955. Sofi is just having one of the most phenomenal runs I've ever seen. And if Sofi doubles from here, it's only a $16 billion company that's going to be doing $2 billion in revenue this year and is going to be GAAP profitable. So this is just an incredibly exciting time to be in the markets. S&P 435 pre-market, relatively, it's up a little bit, nothing too crazy. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with CPI data. But what is the most important is that it looks like the Fed is going to pause. If you look at the Fed tracker, there is a 95% chance that analysts are expecting the Fed to pause. I don't think Jerome is going to raise rates when you've got inflation coming down 900 basis points year over year. It just doesn't seem likely. And if that's the case, then we've got a fun market. We've got a fun market. A fun market over the next couple of weeks. We're still effed in the UK. Yeah, the UK and Canada, I don't know what to tell you guys, but all I know is in the United States, inflation is coming down. And obviously, it should trickle down to the rest of the world over time, but we'll see where it goes. Sachin, thank you for being here. Gordon Douglas, thank you for being here. Jeff, thank you for being here. We have a lot to discuss today. Thank you for the $2 or €2 super chat. Albarello, coffee. Good morning. I don't drink coffee, but I appreciate it. My natural high is seeing Palantir go up in the market. Bro, it's crazy. Like, again, you guys, if you've been friends of the channel, if you're new here, I was covering this company. Wow, 1630 pre-market. I was covering this company along with Sachin, who's in the chat, when Palantir was below $6. I posted one of my Robinhood buys the other day of me buying 100 shares when it was like below $6. There were partnerships and deals and all this stuff. We were getting hundreds of millions from the CDC and Trafigura partnership. We were solving these climate change issues with these big data partnerships. Nothing. The market just spat in our face. They didn't care. Now the paradigm has changed. And I didn't know this was going to happen. I just trusted that Palantir was enough of an interesting company to be in the intersection of everything that matters for something like this to happen. And then it did happen. What happened? ChatGPT took over. Like, honestly, Sam Altman fucking saved the day, but he did save the day because as soon as AI became mainstream, the market recognized that that this thing isn't going away. I want to pull up a couple of tweets by Dan Ives. Dan Ives is incredibly, I think he's on fire in terms of what the stuff he's talking about. He also called out Palantir by name today in terms of calling about Alex Karp. Yo, if Johnny, I see you in the chat. You said, Amit, I can't hear you. I swear to God, if you guys do this again, all last night in the live stream, for those who weren't here yesterday, I went, I pressed the mute button for 4 minutes, unfortunately, yesterday, and it pissed me off the whole day. Like, you don't understand how pissed off I was the whole day because these market streams are really important to me. I want to give a lot of value. I really care about the fact that you guys joined. Like, it really means the world to me that you guys are here. And if I'm not providing value for 4 minutes straight because the fucking mic is unmuted or muted, like it just drives me crazy. So I have my second computer open right here and I'm looking at the chat. So if it's ever muted by mistake, as you can see, Dan Ives making a little fun of the Bears right here, then I'm going to know. You know, why isn't AI advanced enough to be able to just mute itself when I'm not talking and then not mute itself when I am talking? Like, I feel like if we're getting to this point, we should have a fucking AI microphone that can do that. Like, it pissed me off so much yesterday. I can't even explain. So Johnny, that's a funny joke, but I'm not falling for it. All right. So Dan Ives says, NVIDIA's biggest cap tech guidance range include bubble 1999 period ever. Accenture is going to 80,000 AI employees. Jensen, Nadella, Ellison, Su, Sundar, Zuck, Musk, Siebel, Benioff, Karp, among many other lasers focused on AI, but it's just hype. You all say, got it, makes sense. So Dan Ives, very famous Wall Street analyst, basically saying, hey, Karp's on the list with all these CEOs that are embracing AI. And it's nice to see him on that list because Palantir is a little $30 billion company that Dan Ives is putting on the freaking list, which matters. And again, I reiterate, many investors make their tech valuation calls from their office buildings and spreadsheets. We fly to find the trends and tech winners across the world. Tesla, just the car company. Apple, the next BlackBerry. Microsoft, not a cloud company. AI is just hype. Not. So Dan Ives really taking it home to the Bears today, saying you guys have no idea what you're talking about. AI is a thing. And because it's a thing, it's going to be a pretty big deal for a lot of the companies, and Palantir is included in that. I have a couple videos coming out today. The mainstream media, including TD Ameritrade, they started covering Palantir. Now that Palantir is getting some attention, the mainstream media is piling in, and they're talking about the AI potentials. I mean, this is just such a freaking exciting time to be a Palantir investor. I cannot explain, because it's so cool to see a company that, for the majority of people, we were looking at $6. Like, man, there's so much potential, and the market's starting to recognize it. Now, could we get a pullback? Could it retrace? 100%. But every time I say it, I have to deal with the reality that the markets have changed. The fundamental paradigm by which we analyze these companies has fucking changed. And I curse there to prove the fact that it has just changed. It's different. Like, we're in a different ballgame right now. And inflation's coming down, which means the Fed's eventually going to have to cut either this year or early next year. So you've got the macro easing up, and you've got a new paradigm, this fourth industrial revolution. And, if you don't believe that it's a fourth industrial revolution, you haven't used ChatGPT enough. Literally yesterday, me and my videographer, we used ChatGPT just to come up with a couple of answers. And I was like, it would have taken us 10 minutes to go through Google to figure this stuff out. Now imagine I'm in a company and I'm trying to order my inventory, and then I have AIP, and I solve the thing in 2 minutes versus 2 hours. It changes everything. And as a result of that, it's incredibly important to recognize that. It's incredibly important to recognize what's going on. All right. We've got 45 seconds till the market opens. Palantir is at 1630 pre-market. Let's see what happens. Either it keeps going up or we see it kind of stabilize. We'll see where it goes from there. Sofi at 954 pre-market. This is one of the most interesting days that we're going to have this entire year, because this CPI was one of the most important. It did not disappoint. We came in at 4%. Even, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, they expected 4.1, 4.2%. So we came in below the expectations that were set by the investment banks and the institutions. So even that, we're going to see where it goes from there. And then obviously we've got the Fed decision tomorrow. Here we go. 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, the stock market is open. Wake your ass up. Palantir opens at $16.20, up 3% on the day. Let's see where it goes from there. Sofi, $9.55, up at 4.2%. S&P 435, up 4.2%. Meta, 274. Cathie Wood bought 174,000 shares of Meta yesterday. Why did she buy those thousands of shares? Because I guess she thinks Meta is going to be a player in the AI race. And if Meta is going to be a player in the AI race, then Cathie Wood has decided to initiate a position for Meta. DNA, Ginkgo Bioworks at $2. Amazon, $127. Neo, $873. SoFi, $955. NVIDIA, holding 400 nice and strong. You've got NVIDIA up 1.4%. Palantir at 1613. Microsoft at 335. Snapchat up just a little bit. NASDAQ, 13,554. Incredible. NASDAQ top was again 16,000. This is a new 2023 all-time high for the NASDAQ. ARK Innovation at $43. Robinhood at $940. Coinbase at $51, recovering just a little bit of what it lost after the SEC investigation. Roku at $73. Tesla, congrats to Tesla shareholders, $254. I saw some CNBC videos yesterday arguing if Tesla was overbought. In fact, they claimed that Tesla was the most overbought stock in the market. I would disagree with that. I don't know if it's the most overbought stock in the market. I mean, you can look at NVIDIA, and again, I even think NVIDIA's valuation might be theoretically cheap if their guidance continues to go. But Tesla at $800 billion. We had Farzad on Finance Junkies last night. He broke down how Tesla gets to 20 million cars by 2030. So, I mean, there's the really good shot that Tesla is absolutely not overbought, and this rally absolutely will continue going into the end of the year as long as the earnings go well for Tesla. Unity at 36, Apple 183, down just a little bit now at 182, is at 184. Yesterday, C3 AI at 38.17. C3 AI also benefiting, even though their earnings weren't great, but again, they're caught up in the AI hype. And so they are benefiting as well. Google at 125, Super Microcomputers at 259. This is a Chris stock. He called it at 70. Now it's up nicely. Spotify at 150, Square at 65, Google at 124. And again, SoFi 943 and Palantir at up. Palantir just fell below 16. All right. So 15.99, 16. The market's kind of selling it off a little bit. 8 million in volume in 2 minutes. 8 million in volume in 2 minutes. Absolutely incredible for Palantir. Hovering now at $16. So we're seeing how the market's kind of interpreting it now at $16. And we'll see kind of where it goes from there. 1607 now. I mean, again, Palantir and SoFi just absolutely dominating. SoFi broke $9 yesterday. Now it's normalizing at around $9.30. We'll see where it goes from there at a high of $9.61 and Palantir at $16.04. Cathie Wood had to sell some Tesla yesterday, and the reason she sold Tesla likely was because it was becoming too big of a part of her portfolio. So she sold a little bit of Tesla to rebalance, and she loaded up on Meta. What happened to my dips? I think that's what we're all asking for. Okay, now let's talk about, could there be a dip? So we'll get back to the charts in a second. Let me pull up the consumer price index for those that are just joining the stream. Thank you all for being here. The blue line is top line inflation, down to 4% from 9% in the height of June 2022. And the red line is core PCE. Now, if that red line had a slope that was similar in terms of the decline to the blue line, this market, I mean, Palantir might be at like 17, 18 bucks. Like, this market would be insane right now. We didn't get that. And part of the reason we're not getting that, to give a little bit of macro analysis here from the oil perspective, is Saudi Arabia. They have decided to voluntarily cut some of the oil production, trying to get oil prices to stabilize around 75 bucks. In reality, you would need it to get to like 60 for inflation to really have a nice dent, at least going down from the range it is at right now. And I don't know if we get there, and maybe we will over the next couple months, but that's kind of what we're seeing right now when it comes to the reason for why all items less food and energy, which is core PCE inflation, is the personal consumption expenditures, is not going down as much as we need it to go down as well. So the report talks about a bunch of different things that are happening. Again, food is down, energy is down. It's just not enough with some of the other things, like housing, for example, that's making it still stay as inflated as it currently is. The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.4% in May, as it did in April and March. So again, pretty much unchanged with core PCE. And as a result of that, that is what's led to the market probably not going as high as it could today, as inflation is starting to come down on the top line. Regardless of any potential dip, the trick is to stay with good performing stocks. Don't sell for short-term profits. Yes, for everyone, again, that has asked me, Amit, are you selling Palantir? You're now up above your average. I mean, I'm up thousands of dollars on Palantir now. Why am I not selling? Because why would I? I mean, you've got days like this where, again, it's at 16 bucks. Palantir can rally. I don't think people understand it can rally to new heights because of what world we're entering into. If you have not watched the Bank of America video I did yesterday, that's the video I think you need to be able to understand what's going on, or even read the Bank of America. Like, I read the full report yesterday. It was like 6 pages. I was reading through the whole thing at night. It was like 1 a.m. And I was like, goodness gracious. Like, this doesn't sound like BS. This sounds like Bank of America is really talking to a lot of people in the industry and recognizing that Palantir is one of the only players in town that can actually implement AI infrastructure in a meaningful way. As a result of that, why would I sell? I mean, like, this is sell for what? Like a couple $1,000s? Like, no, this is not the time to sell. Like, if you weren't selling at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bucks, why are you selling at 16? Like, and again, people are like, what if it goes down? Okay, we've all been waiting for a dip, right? All of us have been saying, oh, give me a Palantir at 10, give me Palantir at 11. Even at 12, I'll go back in. Okay, so if that dip happens, then we buy. It's just that simple. If I don't need the money right now, if no one needs the money right now, then there's just no reason to necessarily get super amped up over selling it. Nvidia at 404. So the market is giving I don't know why the market's giving Nvidia that much of a premium on macro, because Nvidia is already very richly valued, but the market's, I guess, saying, look, if the macro is getting better and interest rates are likely going to get paused tomorrow, then Nvidia is going to get the premium. So I guess Nvidia gets the premium. Sofi now falling a little bit, even still at $9.30, but it's falling from $9.60 in the pre-markets as it was approaching some of the higher levels. You know, Amit is excited when he says, goodness gracious. Yeah, I should know by now. You guys know all of my innuendos and my unique phrases, I guess. Yeah, I say goodness gracious a lot when stuff like this happens. Chinese stocks up due to a rate cut in China. Yeah, NIO ended up cutting a crap ton of their prices on cars as well, trying to go back at Tesla. NIO up at 2%. Let's go to Baba. Does anyone hold Alibaba? Put it in the chat. Do you own Alibaba at all? Do you own this stock? I remember it was 2020. I was in my parents' basement. I was watching CNBC on YouTube, and I remember when the Ant-Man group, or the Ant Financial Group, Ant-Man's a movie, right? Ant Financial IPO got canceled, and Jack Ma basically got taken to a dungeon and disappeared for 3 weeks. I remember when that was happening. Alibaba was falling from 300 all the way to the 160s during that time, late 2020. So Alibaba's been through a rough time. Obviously, value investors still love this company. I mean, the China exposure to me is just like the reason why I don't invest in it personally. Nothing against China. It's just like, it's scary to invest in a company where the government can do anything. So that's why I'm not in Alibaba. Meta at 273. Again, Kathy Wood initiated a position on Meta. Why did she initiate something on Meta? I think she thinks AI is the future. And if AI is the future, Meta seems to be one of the companies that's interested, that she's interested in. Now, the reason I don't get the Meta play is because Meta is already up 300% in the past 7 months. I mean, like, you talk about selling Nvidia before it runs up, and then you talk about buying Meta when it's already up 300%. I don't understand it, quite frankly. I mean, to be honest, I would buy Amazon more than Meta, because Amazon hasn't had the run that Meta's had. But I guess their analysts are projecting something different for Meta. Now, let's take a little bit more of a bearish case, okay? We're all excited. We got to calm down what our excitements as well and listen to someone who feels that we are a long way away from the Fed's target of 2% inflation. Let's listen to what he has to say.
From Ives. Joining us right now is Jason Trenner, Chairman and CEO of Strategic Research, and which of course is a Baird company. It's nice to see you, Jason. You say it's a long way. So give us your expectation for tomorrow then.
Well, listen, I think I wouldn't quibble with the idea that inflation has peaked, but I also think that we're a long way away from the Fed's target of 2%. I'm not sure the Fed has like the suicide pact with 2%. They may stop sooner than that, but clearly inflation is much higher than the target, and I think it's going to have to stay there for a while. After today, there's only going to be 4 meetings left, and Andrew, as you know, probably about a month ago, one of the main reasons for people to be bullish on the equity market was the expectation the Fed would ease. And my view is simply that the Fed is going to have to see inflation at least closer to 3.
So when he says the Fed is going to have to see inflation closer to 3 in order to ease, we're at 4. Like we're at 4. So like next month, even if it's 3.7, 3.8, we're getting to those levels. And if the Fed pauses in June, I don't think they're hiking in July if inflation comes down to 3.7 and core PCE starts to trend down versus stay flat. If that's the case, we're not getting, I mean, it's likely, I just don't think we're going to get a hike in July. And I think what he's arguing will eventually happen as the Fed sees 3% inflation.
For several months before it can actually start thinking about easing. So I think they're going to pause, long-winded answer your question. I think they're going to pause, but I think as we saw with Australia and Canada, a pause doesn't mean that you're finished tightening, because both of those central banks paused and then they had to raise rates later on.
Now, again, inflation was a lot more stickier in Australia and Canada. So unless it gets stickier in the US, and again, we're 2 percentage points away from getting to that 2% inflation, then it might not be the same situation.
But just let me ask you this, and it's the same question I asked the Treasury Secretary just last week, which is, if to get the rate down, what do you think unemployment has to look like in the United States? Because I think that actually is becomes a both policy and almost a political question.
Andrew, I think you're absolutely right. I think the Fed too is very much of a Phillips curve organization, which means that it spends a lot of time looking at the labor markets. There's 1,000 PhDs there. It's very model driven, which in my opinion can be a weakness, just the extent to which you might be better off just talking to regular people, more often. But I think generally speaking, there's something called, I'm going to get to the SOM rule. You basically need to get unemployment rate up 0.5% before you start actually thinking about a recession.
Is sort of a head fake? Is that what you're trying to suggest?
A little bit. And I have to say, we've been on the wrong
Okay, so this is where he says that there's going to be a massive crash coming.
Side of it. I mean, and just the extent to which, our clients are compared to the S&P 500, not the S&P 500 equal weighted. That would be stronger. That would be easier to defend. But there's no way I could claim that we've seen. We expected 7 stocks to propel the market to be up 12% year to date. And what's hard, of course, is that this is a very difficult thing to argue against, because most of these stocks have something to do with AI or an expectation of much greater productivity. And we're such in early stages that it's a difficult thing to argue against. And so I could see this getting worse before. I mean, from the standpoint of an equal weighted perspective versus market cap weighted.
That chart, and you got to give you kind of a sick feeling that you've.
Okay, now listen to what he's going to say here, because this is a guy that manages a crap ton of people's money, and this is his response to the question. So just take a listen to this.
Been bearish the whole time.
Yeah, no, I mean, we got bearish last March. I mean, we felt.
Since
good.
October, the Nasdaq's up 30% or something.
I'm with you, but there's also our clients.
Well, how do you ever get in?
It's actually risk.
Right. But how do you ever get in?
Risk versus.
How do you ever get in at this point?
I think it's hard to
that's a big question. How do you get in? How do you take advantage of this rally?
Get in at this point. I think it's probably
you'll never be in again. What if it keeps going?
It could. It certainly could, but it's probably too late to buy and too early to sell.
Too late to buy, too early to sell.
I do think.
So
going
what do you
into
do?
the end of
You're just sitting on your hands, Jason?
What's that?
You said too late to buy and too early to sell. So what do you do?
I think as far as those stocks are concerned, in my opinion, I think for the average person to jump in now, I think you're taking a lot of risk. The risk reward is not there. I still am very much of the view that a recession is likely in the next year. And I've never.
Bro, you see how hard it is to be a bear? You see how hard it is to be a bear? And again, there's nothing against this guy, but like, it's too late to buy, too early to sell. Meaning you think the market's still going to go up, right? Because it's too early to sell. So there's still some upside momentum, but it's too late to buy, which means he thinks that the market has already rallied so much. And this is a guy that manages. So if you ever feel like you're an idiot with your money, if you ever feel like you invested in the wrong company, just remember there's people like him that manage millions of dollars for institutional clients and high net worth individuals. And he has missed the rally because he is bearish on the market. He doesn't have any of the money from his funds invested in this market. And granted, his argument is 7 stocks have carried the market. Okay, you missed it. like as much as that sucks, you missed it because you had this bearish view. And the only reason I think this is kind of funny is because we already had a market crash in 2022. Like, it crashed, bro. We went from 478 to 3,400 on the S&P. There was the crash. It did indeed happen. And so if it happened, like the idea that you could still continuously stay bearish, to me, it's either like ignoring reality. It's thinking inflation is going to go to fucking Venezuela levels, which is not going to happen. So it's just like, what are you looking at right here? S&P now at 436 as well. And so this is the hard thing about being a bear, because when you're a bear, you miss these opportunities. And it's just, I think, better to be bullish and wrong in DCA versus bearish and waiting for that crash. Because now the guy wants the S&P. Remember, he came on 2 weeks ago, said the S&P to 3,400. I don't know if we go back to 3,400, and maybe we do, but what's the catalyst for that? Credit tightening, commercial real estate, really? Inflation's going down. I mean, core PCE's not as down as it should be. Okay, that's going to go down. Unemployment, I mean, unemployment's actually increasing. It's actually kind of good for the Fed in terms of what's happening with unemployment. So what he's saying, it's just there's not enough catalyst for that. NVIDIA at 400 Palantir, $15.89. All right, so we're down from 16 on Palantir, but still holding up very nicely, still up almost 2% for the day, up from 15.65 yesterday. NVIDIA now at $400 and is still not too bad. Microsoft at 334, Snapchat at 1030, NASDAQ at 13,562, Coinbase at 51, Robinhood at 946. I've been looking at Robinhood a little bit more. Robinhood's interesting to me. $6 billion in cash, almost going to be gap profitable, zero debt, market cap of $8 billion. I haven't pulled the trigger yet on Robinhood because I don't like how they make money for payment for order flow. I don't understand the business model as much as I need to. And I told myself a year ago, I'm not going to buy a stock unless I fully understand it. So as much as I like Robinhood's valuation and fundamentals, I'm not buying the company yet because I don't fundamentally understand the business. So I will give you guys an update if I do decide to initiate a position on Robinhood. It would be an option. It would not be a actual stock position. I'm looking at some different calls and other things that I have on Robinhood, but not excited yet about the business. Like I just can't get into it yet enough to be super enthusiastic. My sister gave me some money to invest for her in the market. She gave me some money. She gave me $12,000 to invest for her 2 weeks ago, and I loaded up on some options in a certain company you guys may know. And that company is potentially going to benefit from a massive refinancing of student loans, Sofi. So she's doing well on some of her money. This is the play that I think is the most interesting play in the fintech market. $8.77 billion market cap, growing revenues at 41% year over year, gap profitability coming by Q4, student loan, $200 billion total TAM in terms of refinancing, starting to stabilize in a nice wedge range, going up from 470 below. And so when she gave me that money, I told her that this is where I'm going to put her money. It's going to be this company because the catalysts on this company are just absolutely amazing. Now, is it a buy right now? I still think it can be, just given where all of this momentum is leading to. Would I, dump a crap ton in like I did 2 weeks ago for her? No, I would wait a little bit. But this is a stock that's just absolutely doing phenomenally well. And Anthony Noto keeps going on these calls and keeps explaining why the company just has so much momentum. Coinbase at 51, Robinhood at 948, and again Palantir. What do we have at 1574? All right, so Palantir is falling 1574. Not the worst in the world, but obviously the $16 momentum. $16 is a what. $16 is a what. We've hit 16 like 4 or 5 times, and we haven't been able to get there. So $16 has been tough. You bought $12K worth of SoFi options with your sister's money. Yup. And she's up a nice chunk of money. Look, it's long dated. It's not just a leap. It's not like, I know people buy calls, and I did more of a something called a spread. It's a little bit different. And I got them really cheap, man. I got them in when SoFi was hovering just above $5. And so the question is, when you're doing these options, do you have enough time for it to last? And also, are you getting in at an early price? That's what I know very little about options. Okay. The one thing I know is you got to give yourself some time for the options to play out. So the short-term 3-month stuff that people do, I just don't understand that stuff. And you've got to get in at the right time. You can't you should not be buying options on Tesla right now. You should not be buying options on SoFi right now. I definitely don't think you should be buying options on Palantir right now, because it's the underlying asset has run up so dramatically. Like, you would need it to run up even more, and it's not 2020. So I don't think that can happen, even though we're feeling very euphoric, which means you got to get in. That's why I'm not, but someone's like, do you have Palantir calls? I'm like, no, it's at $16. I'm not buying fucking $25. Like, I don't know if that's going to happen. It could fall right back. But now when it was at 7, should I have been buying calls? Yes. And unfortunately, I didn't realize the impact AI was going to have on the market. If I did, I would have bought them. I didn't do that. And so you buy options. And again, I know very little about it, but the one thing I do know is you buy them when the underlying asset is very undervalued and it hasn't done its run up. So the run up hasn't happened yet. Someone says, Amit, that's technically illegal. Okay, so it was my money. She lent me 12,000 then. It's not her money. Don't worry. It was my money. Amit, can you give out a shout out to my wife, Gia Min from Singapore? She's watching this for the first time. Gia Min from Singapore. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I really appreciate you watching the live stream, either with your husband or no, yeah, your husband. I was gonna say boyfriend, but you said wife, so husband. Jem, I've seen your name many times in the stream, so I know you watch it a ton. I'm sorry you have to put your wife through this torture, but hopefully she enjoys the hair and she's getting a little bit of value from this live stream. So hopefully that's okay. Palantir at the moment, what happened? Did Palantir just drop? Did it drop hard? Did it drop hard? Where are we at? Ooh, Palantir 1558. Okay. So not bad. SoFi down in 919 as well. So we're seeing a little bit of downside to the market. NEO at 892. S&P still unhinged at 436. So it seems like the market's selling off a little bit of the good news when it comes to, what do we call it? When it comes to CPI. The Fed pause determines a lot tomorrow. Now, I think there's a 95% chance the Fed pauses. The reason I'm saying this is because I looked at some of the internal Fed trackers on Bloomberg. And so it looks like the Fed is going to pause. If that happens, the question becomes, is this rally baked in, or is this rally not, is the pause baked in to the rally we saw today, or is the market still kind of scared? And if they do get a pause, the market's going to be more excited and things are going to go up. That's what we are going to see happen as well. Enjoy the hair while you have it, Amit. No, that's actually the truest statement ever, because my dad started going bald around 45, 50. So by the way, shout out to my dad. It's his birthday. Shout out to my pops. He would never come on the live stream because he's too nervous, but he is turning 62 years old today. There's a lot I can say about my dad, but I guess for those that have said I have a good work ethic, it comes from my dad. My dad, his work ethic is absolutely insane. He's worked his ass off for the past 40 years. So happy birthday to my pops. He's been in the hospital over the past couple of weeks, just had some health issues, but he's starting to get a lot better. So we're going to celebrate 62 years old today for my pops. 3 people from Singapore here today. I love it. Singapore. All right, let's get into some of the more mainstream coverage on CNBC. Let's see what they're talking about and what they think is going to go on with the Fed pausing or hiking. Again, tomorrow is going to be one of the most monumental days when it comes to the trajectory of this market, because either the Fed pauses or the Fed doesn't pause, but whatever they do is going to determine a lot on where we think the market is going to go. Okay, so let's take a look at this video. Take a 3-minute clip here, and then we'll go from there. And if I mute myself, I will unmute myself when the video is done. I'm not going to let happen what happened yesterday. All right.
Do you think the market is reading the tea leaves right? That we're going to either see a pause, a hawkish pause, or a skip coming up? And could today's CPI report, could that change that?
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting to note that there's still about a 25% chance in the markets that they actually move interest rates up this month, which is very unusual. Usually we have pretty
She's right about that. 25% chance that we get a hike.
much 100% market pricing for whatever is expected at a Fed meeting. Ahead of that meeting, the Fed's pretty diligent about broadcasting what it's going to do in advance. And so I think that it's pretty notable that there's still some thinking in markets that it's possible things could change this month. And I think that has to tie back to this inflation report. If we get a blowout number, if it's a real surprise to the upside, I think you could definitely see a world in which the Fed does feel pressured to go and be a little bit more aggressive than it otherwise would, or at least investors are betting that's the case.
Okay, so that was the case. That was the video from yesterday. CPI came in at 4%, so I think we know we're going to get a pause, because if it came in against expectations, we probably wouldn't have. But because it came in line with expectations, actually below, then it came down. I want to talk about another stock right here called TFC. So let's talk a little bit about TFC. Yesterday, TFC's CFO said top line revenue will come down 3% year over year, and everyone was definitely tagging me and Chris on Twitter. They're like, Amit, TFC's got. As soon as I saw that headline, I was like, this is stupid. And this is a great dip, and the dip has been bought. It was at like 33.75. That was on the high yesterday, but it was more so around 32.99, 33.01, 33.20. Went all the way down to $30.79, and the dip has now been bought up to $32.44. Top line revenue decline for a bank that has $420 billion in deposits, 7th largest bank in the United States. That's not a concern. What's a concern is bottom line profitability. So I mean, quite frankly, if there wasn't revenue decline, I would be surprised, because this year has been crazy for the financial sector. The point is the stock undervalued enough to the point where some little headwind, like a 4% decline, is not going to be necessarily bad for the company? And I think that's the case with Truist, which is why a lot of people bought the dip. I tried to buy the dip yesterday. I couldn't get some of the contracts I was trying to get to be able to be fulfilled. And now, the price is back up. But this is when a company like this is doing as well as they're doing, little things like that actually present opportunities, in my opinion. The dividend yield is still 6.5%, which is just an amazing yield, which is why, again, people will buy the dip as the stock declines, because they want that nice, almost 7% divvy. And so that's why TFC dip has been bought. And the price targets I've seen on TFC, the one got lowered from $48 to $46. My price target is $45. So from the reports I'm seeing, the more bullish report I've seen is about a $57 price target on Truist. So we'll see as it goes from there. Sofi recovering now down to $9.31. It was just at $9.18, down from $9.60 in the pre-markets, but now $9.31. Nvidia still at $400. Enphase at $181. Let's go to Enovix. Let's make Johnny happy today. Where's Enovix? Enovix is a company creating batteries. It is not broken up, but some very, very influential people in the world, including people who were early on Enphase and CEOs and leaders of Enphase, have purchased the crap out of the stock. I'm still trying to do my due diligence. They made like $8,000 in revenue last quarter. So it's definitely not a company you're buying for the fundamentals. You're buying it as a speculative growth play. And people have argued that Enovix could potentially be creating the batteries that actually go up in Apple's Vision Pro, which would be really interesting to see if that happens. Because Apple's going to need some batteries that work on that Vision Pro, and people can't hold that crap forever in terms of the external battery. Enovix might play a role there as well. Now, one thing that we're seeing on Netflix as well is Netflix is getting a price target increase. I want to share a graphic as we move on to Netflix. Bank of America upgraded Netflix right here to $490. This is where we're at, $490 on Netflix. If anyone owns Netflix, please let me know in the chat. But Netflix is now a $490 stock. Reef Elric raised the firm's price target from $410 to $490. Keeps a buy rating on the Sherms. Guggenheim raised the firm's price target to Netflix to $500 from $375. This was a stock that was at $160. I got this one wrong. I will be honest about this. I said at $160, the stock sucks. And the reason I got it wrong was because I was being too ideological about content on Netflix. Content on Netflix actually isn't as bad, and the consolidation of content we're seeing on Netflix is actually amazing. I thought content sucked. I didn't do enough due diligence, and so I didn't buy the stock, and I probably should have. And honestly, Bill Ackman probably should have as well. But Netflix now trading upwards because it's getting people more excited. M25 getting white hairs. Don't worry about it. I have brown hairs, gray hairs as well, and my beard all on my hair, so it happens. We're all gonna get it. And the last month, Tesla is up 50% versus TFC up 17%. Dividend stock's not for me. Yeah, I agree. I don't have any of the underlying stock. I have options on TFC. And as a result of that, those options are doing pretty well in comparison to buying any underlying asset. So for me, it's not about buying the actual stock. It's more so about buying an option strategy. But the stock coming down actually makes the options cheaper, which is important, at least for me. Do you care about watches? No, I've literally never cared about a watch in my life. That's why my mom bought me an Apple Watch. I was like, please return it. Like, I'm never going to wear this watch. So watches have never been my thing. I've got 5,000 shares of Netflix at 163. Congrats, Benny. That's amazing. How much is that? 5,000 times 163. That's half of 163,000, right? No, 1.63 million, 815,000. Not bad. So Benny, why'd you buy? Can you give us some logic in the chat? Why did you pull the trigger that heavily? Were you buying the dip? Were you DCAing, or were you initiating a new position? Because that's an amazing position. Palantir falling a little bit. Other than Palantir and Sofi, what other stocks are you most interested in the moment? I like Tesla, obviously, even though I don't have a position. I like TFC. I like Meta, even though I'm not buying Meta. I think it's up a lot right now, but I am interested in looking at it. Amazon, actually, to be honest, the only stat you need to know on Amazon, they have doubled revenues since 2020, and they are up like maybe 10% from their share price in 2020. So they used to do $250 billion. Now they're doing $498 billion, and the share price is relatively the same as it was back then. So Amazon's very interesting as well. Enphase is interesting, but Q2 is not going to be good because interest rates are not coming down yet. Again, I don't know if we get a cut. I don't know if we get an interest rate cut this year. Like that, I don't know about. A pause, I think, could happen. And maybe we pause for the rest of the year. But if inflation comes in at like 2% or 2.7 or 2.8 by like October, September, maybe we end the year with a cut. And if we end the year with a cut, it's going to be a really nice Christmas. But I don't know if that happens. And so as a result of that, Enphase is going to struggle until we get cuts because the cost to finance solar is still too high. It's just too high right now. And even maintaining its price action right now is pretty amazing, but it was at the 250s, and I don't know if we get that. And I was up $1,400 on Enphase when it was at 250. probably should have sold that one, but alas, that did not happen. Unity at $37. Unity momentum still not stopping. Zoom at 69. QQQ at 361, about flat today. AI $37. TTCF up 5% at 64 cents, so that is up as well. Western Alliance $38.99. Pac West $8.69. CrowdStrike $151. So the regionals are up a little bit. Spotify at $150. Let me talk a little bit about Spotify. Spotify cut 2% of their podcast division. This is not good for a company that's growing, or for a company that should be growing podcasts. Now, remember, the argument about Spotify is that their music business sucks. They make zero money on it. I mean, they barely break even. I don't even think they don't break even because they don't make a profit. So the advertising business from podcasts is what's supposed to be their next leg of growth. And if they're cutting 2% of their podcast division, it means the podcast division isn't really growing the way they thought it was growing, because why are you cutting 2% of the only business that has 25% margins, or at least greater than 0% margins for your company? So I think there's some issues going on with Spotify. I actually got on a call with someone last week who was telling me a little bit more about some of the things he's seeing at Spotify. And so, Spotify's up nicely from $70. I wouldn't be a buyer right now on Spotify. And again, their user growth is going to be great next quarter. Probably going to add another 30 million users. A lot of those users are coming from Asia and India. It's just like not monetizable users at the end of the day. So it's not really the most exciting user growth to be able to see. The unit economics just don't make sense when someone pays $2 a month in India for premium for Spotify. Palantir now at $15.66. So now it's flat from yesterday. The run up to 16 was nice, but 16 is a hell of a lot of resistance. Volume is at 25 million as we approach 10 a.m. So 30 minutes, 25 million. That's almost a million shares traded per minute. Still flat at $15.66. All right. Let's see what else we have. Amid Enphase was at 346 months ago. Don't blink for too long. That's true. That is true. Enphase was at 346 months ago. Spotify's a money furnace. Yeah, they spent $2 billion on podcasts, guys. $2 billion. And what happens if Joe Rogan leaves? I mean, here's the thing with Spotify. Are you going to pay Joe Rogan $500 million? Because he's obviously brought in a crap ton of value to the company. What is he worth? And if he thinks he's worth more somewhere else, and if he leaves, do all those users just leave Spotify? It's a really tricky position for them to be in. And I'm not sure it's that great. Unity will dump as no revenues coming from Apple Vision Pro in the next 3 months. That's an interesting take. Unity will dump as no revenues coming from Apple Vision Pro next 3 months. The counter argument to that is either, the developers that are building all their apps for the Vision Pro are using Unity. I don't know if that's going to happen, because I know Unity is more video games. I don't know if Zoom, that's building their metaverse application for Apple's Vision Pro developer store, needs to use Unity. But if that's happening, maybe there's some revenue coming from that. If not, then yeah, that is an argument for Unity to be dumping. Roblox is a good play between 30 and 40. It's been in range almost 2 days this cycle. I still don't understand Roblox. I'm going to be honest. I literally don't understand Roblox. I just don't get it. And when I do get it, I'll understand it. But I just don't understand Roblox yet. One day when I understand Roblox, I'll get it. Yeah, it's metaverse, gaming, kids, blah, 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 blah. The numbers on the balance sheet don't look that good to me. The whole metaverse play, I guess. I mean, I don't understand Roblox enough yet. I need to understand Roblox more. When I do understand Roblox, I'll have a better shot. Bought hood calls and shares yesterday. Okay, Big Ray. So we know you follow Jesse on Twitter. He's got everybody buying these hood calls. Well, that's good. I hope hood works out. I'm still a little cautious on hood, so not yet. Amit, how come you never got a position in Tesla? I did. I had about 20 shares. I sold it to get into an option on Truist, and that option has just done way better for me than the shares could have on Tesla. My average was like 230, so it just wasn't worth keeping the position in terms of the short term. Now, in the long term, we'll see what happens as I build up a little bit more capital to be able to deploy in Tesla, and hopefully the price is not too bad when I get into that position. But look, if we think Tesla's a $10 trillion company and I buy it at 900 billion versus 600 billion, there's not that much of a difference if we're thinking of 2030. If the bulls really believe Tesla's a $10 trillion company, buying it at 1 trillion shouldn't be that crazy, because you're still a 4 or 5x. Now, that's on the most bullish assumptions around Tesla, and hopefully that happens, but we'll see if that goes from there. And if that happens, then it happens. PayPal, would you buy? I'm looking more into PayPal. Let's just say I'm looking more into PayPal. I'm doing a lot of research on PayPal, not buying yet. I've got the Bank of America study. I'm reading through it. I'm looking more at PayPal. Not buying yet, but I'm looking more at PayPal. I know it got a downgrade the other day, so PayPal can't get a break, but looking more into PayPal. The fear and greed index, yes, we are in ultimate greed. We are in extreme greed, which is why valuations are getting frothy, which is also why growth stocks and tech stocks might not be the best to be in right now, even though in the next couple of years, AI takes over and it's great, and value might be a little bit better as we might just get a natural sell-off over the summer, or the AI hype continues. And so like usually when it gets to extreme greed, that's what we see. So I think it can be a combination of both. I think some stocks can still rally from the AI hype, but a lot of stocks that are up, 100, 200, 300%, even 40% like Apple, those can come down just a little bit as a result of there just being massive greed in the market right now. And we'll see where it goes from there. All right, that's it for me. Thank you. 625 people for joining. Means the world to me. We had 730, I think, for a good 20 minutes on this live stream, which is just crazy. It's amazing. I'm so happy that you guys are here. It absolutely makes my morning. And I'm happy I did not press the mute button today as I was speaking. So I didn't have to waste 4 minutes of your time, because that really broke my heart yesterday. So thank you all for being here. Main takeaways from today: CPI has come down to 4% year over year. It is down 900 basis points. Core PCE has not changed. Hopefully that does change going into July. And if that does change and CPI goes down from 4% to maybe 3.7, 3.6, that is going to be really good for the markets. The Fed is likely going to pause tomorrow. Well, I think I'll be live streaming the Fed meeting tomorrow. So I'll be live streaming that, see what Jerome Powell has to say. That's going to be at 2:30. We'll get the decision by 2 p.m. Most likely going to be a pause, probably with some hawkish statements. And what the market will do with the pause and the hawkish statements, we'll see. Likely going to rally just a little bit in the pause and then sell off on the hawkish statements. But maybe they're dovish statements. Maybe the Fed is seeing some data that's a little bit better. We're going to see ultimately what happens from there. That's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Another couple videos coming out on Palantir today, talking a little bit more about what the mainstream media is doing in AI and the TAM for AI. Finance Junkies tonight at 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. Eastern, breaking down everything that's going on. Thank you all for being here. Have a great, great Tuesday, and I'll see you later tonight. Bye, everybody.